Hi everyone, it's Lumina. Okay, this video is going to be very off the beat from what I usually do. It was requested by Atticus MJ, who wanted me to comment on Anita Sarkeesian's Swords and Sorcery video. Now, I've only watched that one video of Anita's. I know that Anita has been getting a lot of backlash for her personal opinions on the gaming industry these days, but I want to say, first off, I am not bashing her upon making this video. I feel like Anita has a right to her own opinions, just like everyone else does. So instead, I'm going to play the video and pause it in certain places so that I can add some friendly thoughts of my own, kind of like a conversation. Alright, so with that being said, and again, I want to stress that I am not bashing Anita, I'm just adding my opinions to hers. Okay, here we go. I'm going to press the play button, and I'm sorry I don't have any fancy video capture equipment or anything like that, but I still hope that you enjoyed this video anyway. Okay, here we go.
The hero of the 2011 pixelated adventure game Sword and Sorcery is a brave adventurer known only as the Scythian, and the game tells a story of her quest to collect the 3 pieces of the Golden Trigon. Now, if a quest to collect pieces of a magical triangular artifact sounds familiar, that's no accident. Sword and Sorcery's Trigon is a clear reference to the Triforce of the Legend of Zelda games, and Link's recurring quest to collect pieces of the Triforce is perhaps the most famous heroic quest in the history of fantasy adventure games. By drawing on familiar gaming icons and conventions that many of us already associate with legendary quests and timeless adventures, Sword and Sorcery quietly asserts that women can fill the role of mythic hero as effectively as men can.
Okay, I'm going to pause really quick. I have a good comparison in mind. There is a game series, I don't know how well it's known, I don't know if it's little known or well known, but there is a game series called Rosencreustelet, translated as Blades of the Red Cross, which, like Sword and Sorcery, takes from the Zelda series. Rosencreustelet borrows elements of gameplay from both the Mega Man and Castlevania series, which is pretty cool. And the cast of characters consist primarily of women, which is also awesome. Okay, that being said, back to the video.
With the aid of a gorgeous and mesmerizing soundtrack, Sword and Sorcery's retro-inspired visuals paint a pleasantly abstract landscape players can navigate through the simple act of tapping or clicking. And the game tells a traditional yet emotionally resonant story, proving that you don't need technically impressive graphics to create a world worth exploring and a tale worth telling. In fact, the level of detail is so low in our pixelated protagonist, and our tendency to assume that heroes are male by default is so widely reinforced, that some players have made the mistake of assuming the Scythian is male, at least initially. Thankfully, the game doesn't resort to clear gendered signifiers like a pink outfit or a pretty bow in her hair, nor does it present her gender as some kind of surprise twist like we see in the original Metroid. In both visual design and writing, Sword and Sorcery is subtle about asserting the Scythian's gender, though once you acquire the Megatome at the end of the game's first episode, you're presented with the thoughts of other characters who refer to the Scythian using female pronouns.
Okay, pause. I have a couple of points on this one. I agree that when video games first came out, it seemed like more of a male dynamic. However, in this day and age, almost all video games consist of a mixture of protagonists from both genders. The Across Age series for the iOS is a good example, as that game is designed so that players must switch from both the male and female heroes in order to solve puzzles. And as far as gender specifics goes, Final Fantasy XIII is a good example. Not only does the player's main party consist of both male and female heroes and heroines, but Lightning's outfits change over the course of the series. First, in Final Fantasy XIII, she's in her Guardian Corps outfit, which doesn't look too girly, but doesn't hide her femininity either. Then, in the second game, she wears a Valkyrie suit of armor in the world of Valhalla. And lastly, in Lightning Returns, she has a wide variety of clothes to choose from, if you don't mind buying them as DLC in order to fill up her closet. Okay, anyway, back to the video.
It's not just in the visual sense that the Scythian lacks clear definition. We know very little about her history and nothing about why she's undertaken the quest to defeat an ancient evil.
I think I might know why the Scythian has chosen to step up and take the plane of the hero here. The Scythian might want to do so because she has to live in this world, and she probably wants her life to be as comfortable as possible without the threat of an ancient evil looming on the horizon for herself or her loved ones. Just a thought there. Just a thought. Okay, back to the video.
While games often give us images of heroes who are fated to defeat evil forces, it's rare for these heroes of myth to be women. Like many video game heroes, the Scythian is essentially a silent protagonist, a figure defined primarily by her actions, which makes her a blank slate for all players to project themselves onto. But while we don't actually hear her speak to other characters, a bit of the Scythian's personality does come through as her thoughts serve as a kind of narration for the story. Her quest is referred to as a woeful errand from very early on, an important bit of foreshadowing that communicates that her task is not a happy one, but the grim nature of her errand doesn't overshadow the Scythian's spirit or the tone of the game itself. The character's quirky, often humorous thoughts, along with the sense of wonder in the world, makes this journey magical, delightful, and melancholy all at once.
Alright, I'm going to pause. In the Zelda series, there were 2 spin-off games in which Zelda took up the sword and shield in order to rescue Link. And the same goes for the video game Super Princess Peach, who was formerly known as Toadstool. She had to step up and save Mario. And as far as the Scythian's thought patterns are, that reminds me of a visual novel in which the player has to make choices very carefully in order to get just the right ending. And I can understand why the Scythian's quest would be a woeful one. The idea of your world getting destroyed is really depressing. But it's good that she has some points in which she finds reason to smile during her quest. Because don't we all want that? Alright, okay. Back to the video.
Sword and Sorcery is broken up into a series of short sessions, most of which focus on the Scythian acquiring pieces of the Trigon. There are some simple, timing-based combat encounters, but the majority of time is spent exploring the world and solving simple puzzles that require players to pay attention to environmental details like trees, birds, and reflections in the surface of a pond. The game is primarily concerned not with combat and killing, but with the natural beauty of the world the Scythian is trying to protect. Using the mysterious power of the Song of Sorcery, players sometimes manipulate the environment in some really surprising ways, creating the feeling that this is a magical world where just about anything can happen.
Okay, pause again. That reminds me a bit of an older game called Illusions of Gaia for the SNES. Beautiful graphics, intricate puzzles with calculating boss fights, and the main character of Will often plays his flute in order to help with his endeavors to save his world from a comet. And in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, Link also plays his ocarina not only to protect Hyrule, but also, in the sequel, to save the world from an angry-looking falling moon. Back to the video.
Okay, at this point, if you haven't finished the game yet, you should just go do that right now. Even if getting to the end involves a whole real-time moon cycle mechanic that might take you a couple of months to complete. Unless, of course, you reset the clock on your gaming device, or if you're able to find the special Moon Grotto location.
Pause. Resetting clocks and finding special locations reminds me of Chrono Trigger. Again, both male and female protagonists, one of which, Magus, used to be an antagonist with an interesting past, as he was Prince Janus of the Kingdom of Zeal, which might explain why he's a little troubled as an adult when he becomes an antagonist. Okay, back to the video.
But spoiler alert, we're about to talk about how the story ends, so you've been warned. Most video game heroes become more powerful as their quest progresses. This is one way in which Sword and Sorcery subverts expected gaming tropes. There's nothing in it for the Scythian. She doesn't gain more health or better gear over the course of the game. In fact, the quest takes a toll on her. She starts the game with 5 units of health, but loses 1 each time she wins a boss fight, decreasing her overall maximum health as her adventure progresses.
Okay. In the 2012 Tomb Raider reboot for the PlayStation 3, Lara Croft's attempts to survive takes a toll on her as well, while she's trying to escape the island of Yamatai and save her friends at the same time. So in that respect, when I think of the Scythian, I think of Lara Croft. Personally, I think that might be awesome. Okay, back to the video.
This game is not about leveling up or becoming more powerful, and Sword and Sorcery ends with the Scythian doing something Link never has. To rid the world of an ancient evil, the brave hero sacrifices herself.
Okay, it's true, we haven't seen Link die in order to save Hyrule yet. But because each game in the Zelda series consists of different plots, pretty much with every title, you never know what the next title's plot twists are going to bring you. Link might die at the end of one game while being alive and well in the title that follows. You never know. It all depends.
Unlike the deaths of so many female characters in games which serve the purpose of fueling the development of male characters, the Scythian's death is tragic because her life had intrinsic value. We projected ourselves onto her and experienced the world through her. In the game's final moments, we see the people of the region pay their respects to the Scythian, and we mourn her death along with them. She didn't just exist in relation to another character. She wasn't just somebody's wife or sister or daughter, but rather she existed as an individual and as a hero. The game's ending suggests that the Scythian will not be forgotten by the other characters, and the visuals and music work together to elicit a complex assortment of emotions, a sense of celebration of the Scythian's courage, and a sense of grief at her death.
Alright, I can name 2 more female character tragedies that made for some watery eyes. The first one, Aerith Gainsborough from Final Fantasy VII. As the world's last ancient, Aerith probably knew what her destiny might entail. The second would be Aki Ross from the movie Final Fantasy: The Spirit Within. During the movie, Aki is sick and knows full well that her time is short, but presses on nonetheless. However, unlike Aerith, she is ultimately cured of her sickness, but in the process of her having to be saved, her perfectly healthy boyfriend has to die. That's heart-wrenching.
While the necessity of the Scythian sacrifice is worked into Sword and Sorcery's story from the beginning, and lends this particular game an emotional weight its quest might otherwise lack, we certainly don't want all female heroes to be tragic ones. But we do need more women-centric stories of all kinds. When archetypal fantasy heroes in games are overwhelmingly portrayed as men, it reinforces the idea that men's experiences are universal and that women's experiences are gendered. That women should be able to empathize with male characters, but that men needn't be able to identify with women's stories. Sword and Sorcery gives us a female protagonist and encourages us to see her as a hero first and foremost, one who also just happens to be a woman.
Okay, my final thought on this video would be the PlayStation 3 game Nier, which is a spin-off from the Drakengard series. That game not only consisted of a male and female protagonist, Nier and Kaine, and a grimoire named Weiss, but the plot was unique as it mostly revolved around a father trying to save his daughter rather than his main focus being on the world itself. And he was a single father. He had to play the role of mom and dad, which in itself is quite challenging for any single parent that's listening. Overall, after watching this video a couple of times, I feel like what Anita is referring to is the old days, when it was expected of games to tell tales of men saving either the world or a damsel in distress. But in today's game industry, this task could be placed upon either gender. I say this not out of disrespect for Anita or her personal opinions. I know I've said that before, but I'm going to say it again because I am not one who likes to bash people. I am to each his own. I feel like if someone else has an opinion that's different than mine, that's cool. I'm not going to step on their toes. But because this video was a subscriber request, I feel like I do have to share my opinion too. So, with that being said, I am done. Thank you so much for watching. Atticus MJ, I hope you enjoyed this video, and God bless you guys. Bye!